me know. Let's start with Deven Ghelani, Director of Policy and Practice, who was one of the architects of the universal credit system. Hello, Deven. Do you see a country, a nation of work-shy shirkers hiding behind the duvet, wearing pajamas and not keen to just, get going?
Hi, Vanessa. Great to be on. And no, absolutely, I don't. We all lie in bed and wear pajamas from time to time. Like, this happens. People like to take a break from the grind, as you put it. But actually, on the whole, I think we've got a group of people that want to work, want to do the right thing. Often they're pushing against systems that work against that. And I think that is some of where the brass neck of Chris Philp is coming from, of a lot of what we're seeing at the moment, a growing number of people on out-of-work benefits, sickness benefits in particular, is coming from reforms. We're really paying off the costs of austerity in large part. Now, there are some good things.
Hang on, wait, I'm listening to you. People can't see you, but you're standing by what looks like an industrial staircase in a car park. I have no idea where you are, but I'm paying close attention to whatever it is you're saying. What do you mean? Where's the bit where you explain why so few people of this 9.3 million people are not working? You said it's to do with austerity. How does that work? In what way is it to do with austerity?
So I think you've got a few different things going on. You've talked a bit about health issues from COVID.
Yeah.
We've also got growing older workforce. There are some things that you can't do a great deal about, but there are some things you can do a lot about, and that is kind of the policies that you have in place. Now, I want to talk about something positive that we've also had alongside austerity. So I worked on universal credit as a policy idea. The idea was to make sure people are better off in work, and universal credit on the whole does that. I think we've done a terrible job of communicating it, but universal credit is generally more generous for people who take those steps out of work into work than the old system that it replaced. And having systems that go with the grain when people do the right thing, when they want to do the right thing, that's a really good thing. The point I was making about austerity is, alongside universal credit, you also had huge cuts in support for people who might have benefited from it. If you think about young people, a growing number of young people are on sickness and out of work benefits. They've not been able to access the healthcare, the mental health support that might have kept them in the workforce. And frankly, it's a lot cheaper and better, obviously, for the young person, but a lot cheaper fiscally if you can stop them from falling out of the labour force in the first place.
Yeah.
So now what we're doing is we're paying off the fact that the mess and muddle that you'll have seen in the papers today as well of proposed reforms of sickness benefits are coming about because you've seen this growth in numbers, and actually that's going to cost us a lot more to unwind from than if we just hadn't had it in the first place. And that was the point I was trying to make about what we've seen over the last decade.
And are we seeing, do you think, people who don't get into the workplace at all? So you're talking about the people who fall out of work because they have mental health issues. But what about those who don't ever work at all, who don't start even in the workplace? It's not that they can't do it, they just don't do it or won't do it, one or the other.
Yeah, I'd say that's a much smaller number. And I know the story. I worked at the Centre for Social Justice. I grew up on a council estate. I've seen and heard some of these stories. I think what you find is some people move into and out of work a lot, and it's quite hard to find people who have never worked at all. What you want is dealing with them working with systems that when they do move into work, they're rewarded and recognised. When they take that, what for them can feel like a risk, because you've got a little bit of security on benefits. It's not much money, but it's coming in every month. Oh, actually, I've got to do something that will, ideally under universal credit, will leave me better off.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Now that can, even with disability benefits, it can feel like a risk for people. I've been out of work for a long time. I risk losing my disability benefits, and dealing with, I think the problem, and generally the point I'm talking about, is we've tried stick a lot over the last decade. There's been a lot of stick in social security, in the benefit system around people who aren't working. I think we could do with a little bit more carrot and a little bit more compassion, because I think on the whole, people aren't sort of stuck and they want to do the right thing. They want to move into work. Sometimes, and actually this is probably where there's a useful bit of debate, is it on their terms or is it on the terms of what the economy needs, what the employer needs? But actually that's a little bit about finding the balance that works for all sides. I just
think, forgive me if this sounds antediluvian, but I just think some people listening will be thinking, You know, carrot and stick, carrot and stick. There shouldn't be a carrot or a stick. You have to work because otherwise you don't eat. You can't pay your bills. You can't buy a pair of socks when your socks have holes in them. That is the carrot. You have to work. You need to do it. Nobody needs to persuade you into it or you know, kind of convince you of why you have to do it. You have to do it to maintain yourself. And also a great deal of it, you know, does pertain to morale, self-respect, you know, mixing with other people, having a framework, having a structure, being paid for what you do, all that kind of stuff, which does contribute, you know, hugely to, you know, a buoyant mental health. You know, even if the job you do is repetitive or unpleasant, you're doing it with other people. You have to show up. You have to get dressed to get there. They talk to you. You talk to them. You cop off with them. You marry them. You live happily ever after. You know, stuff happens at work. If you're just alone at home or whatever, it's a lonely world, isn't it? And a very dismal kind of life.
Absolutely. There's an interesting exchange at work just the other week where there's kind of this, we've obviously come back and there's a hybrid working culture. Some people come into the office, some people don't. Yeah. There's an interesting sort of online discussion about that with some members of the team. It's kind of interesting to hear. You know, I think you've got kind of, it can be two factions, right? You've got the bosses that want everyone back in the workplace to get more out of them, and you've got kind of workers on the other side. I think the perspective I took was one of, do this because it's better for you. So if you are in work and you're young, you really want to spend time learning from people around you. You're going to learn much more faster if you do kind of take those steps into work. And I think that just needs to be, those kinds of messages can be kind of better understood and better communicated. I think even if you're older, you can probably get away with working from home a little bit more because you've picked up on a lot of the skills. But actually, it still matters. You'll get more of, as you say, there's more chance of copying off with someone.
More chance of copying off with someone. As far as I'm concerned, that's a huge inducement. That's the carrot. I don't know about the stick. The stick is a different matter. Good talking to you, Deven. Thank you very much indeed for talking to us. All right, we are taking calls